The hyphenated word self-help first showed up in the 1800s. It was used in a legal context where one person, one party would really begin to act on their own behalf to remedy a wrong in their life. They were going to act on their own behalf, take responsibility for their case, and use legal means to move forward and make things right. And in this sense, the word really just meant taking action. It meant taking responsibility for your life. And this is a good thing. And then in the early 1900s, an author named Dale Carnegie put out a book that was all about the importance of confidence when it comes to living a successful life. But in the last kind of third of the 1900s, something interesting began to happen. There was this shift towards an inward focus inside of people's lives, sort of this mystical shift towards looking within. And really this approach to life, this philosophical way of viewing life, it was really growing in light of the postmodern movement. In the wake of Enlightenment thinking, people began to turn within to discover who they were. And right then and there, this thing exploded onto the scene called the self-help genre in literature. And what happened is that when people began to look within to discover who they were, people were thrown into an identity crisis. If I'm to look within to discover who I am, then who I am is subjective, and who I am, it is elusive. And this pitched people into an identity crisis. And the self-help movement swooped in. And I think they had good intentions. The movement, the leaders of it, the authors of it, the writers inside of it, I think they perhaps had good intentions to help people. But I don't think they had great solutions. And what happened is the self-help movement preyed on people in the middle of an identity crisis and then launched the multi-billion-dollar industry, the self-help industry. And the problem, as I see it, is this. The problem with self-help isn't help, but self. Guys, we all need some help in life. I need a lot of help in a lot of areas of life. At least that's what my wife tells me. We need help, and getting the help we need and admitting we need help and pursuing help, that is valuable. The trouble, though, is when we begin to believe lies about the root problem in our lives. We believe lies about the pursuit of happiness, and we believe lies about the pursuit of what can actually help and make our lives better. Give me a moment to explain the problem as I see it with self-help. And once again, the problem isn't help. I need that. We need that. The problem is self. I want to explain the problem in a bit more detail. Then I want to give you a big disclaimer, okay? A big disclaimer to kind of bring everybody in, especially if you're leaning out. And then I want to go into what I think is a better piece of literature all about help, so that we can experience the type of help that lasts, the type of help that we need, the type of help that is actually eternal. So, 4 problems. Self-help becomes a problem when? I want to take you through 4 of those. Self-help becomes a problem when it's your pathway of salvation. Self-help claims to offer more than just education, guidance, and direction. All good things, by the way, all things that we need. Self-help often promises more than that. A way to make your life count, a way to know that you matter, a way to save you from the things that are going on around you and inside you. Self-help often turns into a way of salvation. And when it does that, it overpromises because it just can't deliver. So self-help becomes a problem when it becomes a way of salvation. Self-help becomes a problem when it becomes idolatry. Idolatry means to worship something that's not worthy of our worship. And here's the thing, self-help often becomes the worship of self. Self-help often becomes the worship of the leader or the guru or the author pitching these ideas to people. In the solar system of self-help, the sun in which all things revolve is you. It's self. And I think that's a problem. And I know why this happens. We were made to worship. Self-help just guides us towards worshiping the wrong thing. Self-help becomes a problem when we misdiagnose the actual problem. See, self-help, that whole movement often says, hey, the problem is you just haven't had enough education, you haven't invested into your life enough, you haven't gone on enough retreats to really take care of yourself, and if you just did all of that, your life would be so much better, and your identity crisis would be solved, and your struggles would go away. But that is just not correct. Self-help offers a solution, but it's not the real solution. It's not a solution that is powerful enough. Self-help becomes a problem when it's your pathway to an identity. If you lived in an ancient culture, the ancient approach to discovering who you were was to let your tribe tell you who you were. It was the people around you, the people you grew up with, your family, your clan, your tribe that told you who you were. That was an ancient approach to an identity. But the modern approach is just the opposite. It's that no one can tell me who I am, and I look within to discover who I am. Both of those approaches are problematic. We need an identity that comes not from everybody around us, an identity that's not found within us, just defined by us. We need an identity that comes from somewhere bigger than that, better than that, someone more loving and more good than all of that. We are in an identity crisis, and the self-help movement promises an identity, but it's not an identity big enough, rich enough, and lasting enough for any of us. So when I talk about self-help as a problem, I'm thinking of it in those ways. Now, here comes the big disclaimer, okay? Because I know there's some big self-help people out there listening to this. Here's my disclaimer. Here it is. Self-care is not the same as self-help. Let me say that again. Self-care is not the same as self-help. Self-care, those things, books, retreats, seminars, classes, whatever you want to call that, it's helpful when it nourishes your relationship with others and when it nourishes your relationship with God. But when we look to those things as the things that will save us, that's when it becomes a problem. Self-care is not the same as self-help. The self-help movement tells us something. Most people know that something is drastically wrong. The fact that the self-help industry is so popular, so big, so lucrative, tells us that people are desperate for something better. People are desperate to find a way forward, desperate to understand who they are. Let's let the self-help movement expose that reality inside of our culture. But let's dive deeper into true help. So that's my hope today. My hope today is that we could overthrow some oppressive thinking that says all you need in life is found within you and yourself. We are not enough for what we need. And I hope to drive us deep into the source of real and lasting help today.